Hello, everyone. Today I will be talking about where abuse comes from and why people choose to do so, why people choose to abuse. Now, it's very confusing to think about why these things happen sometimes because it can be very unjustified. And when we think of people who abuse, we think of the worst kinds of people manipulators, narcissists. We may wonder how someone can have so much evil inside of them. So, in order to explain why this happens and why people do it, I have to go into more of philosophical concepts and even a little bit of spiritual concepts. But I find that understanding things from this perspective allows for a greater understanding in general. Because there's not a simple answer as to why people abuse or why people do evil or why there's so much evil in the world. Hopefully, you guys will be able to understand by the end of this video sort of where these things come from and how to better combat them in your everyday life. As you have a better understanding of what you're coming up against, you'll be better equipped to deal with it in your life. So let me know if you guys want to hear more of these types of videos as well. I can definitely make more of these from this type of perspective, not just a scientific one. The capacity for anyone to abuse someone else at any given time exists dormant in every single person. Now, this is because as human beings, we have the potential to do good just as much as we have the potential to do evil. If we have a great potential to do good, this means that we can do evil with the good that we have in our hearts. If someone's evil, they can also do good as well. They just choose to do bad with it. So now if someone is very strong, they can use this to bully others. But if someone is strong physically, in the same manner, they can defend the people they love and defend the people who are weaker than them. So it's a matter of what you choose to do with what you have. When it comes to manipulation and abusing people, this comes from a position where you want to dominate and control others. To be very abusive requires a different mentality. Things work on states of mind. So you can think of states of mind being like states you can be in, sort of like the United States of America, where I can be in Florida and I can switch states and go to Alabama and then Georgia and then North Carolina. I can switch states. I can move from state to state. Now, in order to have a mentality where you want to abuse somebody, you would just have to go there. You would have to want to be in a position where you say, well, I don't care about anybody. I just want to be selfish and I want to do things for my own gain. And you can convince yourself to do this, or you have learned to be this way just through your own experiences. Now, when you think about someone who is very abusive, so you may ask yourself, why does somebody want to do this? Why does somebody want to make someone else feel bad? But the reality is they can find lots of gratification in doing so. Entering into this mentality just requires a certain state of being, sort of something you can switch in and out of. They just choose to dwell in that specific state of mind. So the specific state of mind that they have is one of control, of domination, where they must be better than someone else. And it's a very me first mentality, very egocentric, very me-centered, and I don't care about anyone else except for myself. I want my self-gratification, and I don't care. Everything is about me. And this is exactly the definition of narcissism. It's very egocentric. It's all about me, 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 me. And this is why narcissism is considered such a big deal, because with that selfishness comes a desire to manipulate, comes a desire to abuse, and it brings them this gratification where I'm better than you, I am hurting you. This makes me feel good. And as it makes them feel good, it encourages them to continue in this behavior, because with the feeling associated with their actions of abuse, manipulation, and control, it's giving them feedback or they're feeling something. In order for you to feel something good from you doing something bad requires you to flip your way of thinking completely upside down. And this is why people who are considered empaths do not understand narcissists, because they ask themselves, why would somebody do this? How can someone be so evil? They must be Satan incarnate for them to want to abuse and find gratification. And it's exactly that. It's exactly the mentality switched and flipped on its head. You can think of your mind in two ways: a higher way of thinking and a lower way of thinking. And this is also known as higher mind thinking and lower mind thinking. So lower mind thinking is related to the animalistic nature that we all have in us. And then higher mind would relate more to like a spiritual aspect where we think of the bigger picture. We think of others around us. We don't think of only ourselves. We think of ourselves as part of a bigger picture. or we think of ourselves as a tree in a forest. But now when we think of ourselves in a lower-minded aspect or animalistic, we think of only ourselves, where we are the center, very egocentric. So as we dwell upon this way of thinking, lower mind, it drives us to want to dominate and control. So when we look at the animal kingdom, we see lots of survival of the fittest, where it's just very brutal and very intense. And we bring that into the human realm, where we want to be the biggest, strongest animal. And in this realm, we may not actually attack each other like animals, but we use things like money, power, control, blackmail, different things in order to get what we want. So essentially, we're taking that mentality and bringing it into our realm, the human realm, the financial realm, the relationship realm, everything. When you think of people who were great conquerors in history, like Genghis Khan, for example, you can wonder why someone like him would want to just take over the world and just ride on his horse and just go across Europe and just start killing everybody. But it comes from that mentality where you just want to take. You just want to take for the sake of. You're dwelling in a different mentality. You're just thinking about yourself. He also had so many relations with women that he has so much offspring. So there's so much indulgence there as well. And one can say this is a good thing or a bad thing, but I'm not here to debate whether that's good or bad. I'm just talking about the state it requires to do that. It requires that state of wanting to dominate, of wanting to control, just because you can, and just because you want to, and just because you feel like it. It may seem like sometimes we tend towards the lower mind way of thinking or our animal nature, because we're very susceptible to things like sex, pleasure, and wanting to control and wanting to manipulate. And this may be true, but we also have a different aspect of us that doesn't want to dwell in all of these things all the time. We have sort of a conscience that reminds us to step out of these things. And if we don't listen to it, then we can descend into these depths. And now I want you to think about, when it comes to the higher and the lower mind, I want you to think of how it looks like on a scale, where it's up one way, higher mind, and then down, lower mind. You see here in this picture, as you go up, you are reaching a higher place, and this can be considered heaven. And when you go down, it goes all the way down to your heel, and this is considered hell. And this is a funny illustration because narcissists are considered devils or demons because they're so evil, but they have descended so far into the depths of the lower way of thinking, and this is why it's called that. And this is the mentality that is required in order to be an expert manipulator, to be so abusive and so evil that you find some kind of satisfaction in it. And this is why sometimes it can be difficult to understand, because we may be in a different level on this scale. We may be a little higher and a little lower, and we don't always understand people and their motivations as to why they do things. But if we just understand that these things are latent within us, it becomes easier to understand. And it's not to say that you are evil, because this is inside of you, but the potential is there. So as we dwell in the lower mind, as we dwell in our animal nature, it's normal for us to want to have extreme feelings where we want to control others and dominate others, just for the sake of. In this state, we seek strong emotional reactions, whether that's anger, sadness, or whatever it may be. You can even think of like watching a scary movie. That is considered very exciting to some people. Some people like being afraid. Some people like feeling the thrill, but some people don't. Some people find it very uncomfortable. And this all depends from person to person. But fear in itself is considered an animalistic tendency. It's lower on the scale. It's a lower mind because this brings you into a fear mentality, a survival mentality. And this is why it can be very appealing, because we get that strong emotional feeling. And many times we want to feel these feelings. We want to listen to music. We want to feel sad. We want to feel excited. We want to feel just elated in some kind of way. We want to relate to these strong emotional feelings in our body. It can be very difficult for us to just want to seek peace and want to seek contentment. And especially now in the age of technology, with phones and TikTok, YouTube and everything, it becomes very difficult. We want flashing lights. We want some kind of sensation. We want this dopamine in our mind. We want something. We want some kind of feeling. And it's almost like our mind doesn't care about a good feeling or a bad feeling. It just wants something to feel. An example of this can be listening to classical music. Now, some people do not like classical music because they consider it boring. Because It's too slow. It makes you tired. It slows you down. And this is the point. It's supposed to bring you peace. Peace is not some great grand feeling. It's just steady. It's different. It's not like some great feeling in your body. This is the way it's supposed to be. They're polar opposites. It's not to say that you're not supposed to be happy or super emotionally invested. It's just to say that it is a different polarity. Now, there's a story I can share with you guys where there was a woman that I knew who was with a man who was a very nice man. He was very kind. He used to go to work, and when he used to come back, he used to take care of the woman, and he used to help her around the house. He was very mild-mannered, and there was nothing particularly wrong with the relationship. He was very supportive, but the only problem was he was considered boring to the woman. Now, he was not a boring person per se. It's just that there was not enough action going on. There was no excitement. He didn't have something bad happening. There was never a tragedy going on in his life. There wasn't any drama at work. There was no drama whatsoever. Now, the woman who got very bored with this man actually ended up leaving him. She would mention why she left him. She just said it was very boring. There wasn't any excitement. There was never anything that happened, and I can't stand that. There was nothing to keep me on my toes. There was nothing to really keep me invested. It was just too boring. He didn't try to cheat. He didn't talk to my girlfriends. He didn't do anything. And it's this kind of excitement that kind of drives us away from what we want in life. There's many examples you can give, and it doesn't really matter the gender roles here. I mean, it can go either way because I've seen it happen both ways as well. But the point of the story is that we want some excitement. And this is what contributes to people acting in extreme ways sometimes. People can get really bored just living their life and being content with themselves. People want to go out and seek for some kind of reaction from people to manipulate, to control, to dominate, because this gives them that feeling of elation. Like, wow, I'm so much better than you. I'm so much better than all of these people. And so as we look for these feelings, this is what drives people to abuse, to do the worst things imaginable. We seek these strong reactions sometimes, and there's nothing wrong with that per se. But if we want to find peace, we have to be comfortable with the silence, with being at peace. And it's different than having these physical sensations in our body. And this is where it can come from sometimes, because abusers like to feel super elated with controlling others, with abusing others, with feeling dominant and bigger than others, where I have more money and I'm better than all of you people. I'm better than you, and I'm going to squash you to the ground, and I'm going to take from everyone around me. It's that mentality and those feelings that really bring it out. So why do people abuse, and where does it come from? It comes from that way of thinking. It comes from that animalistic, that deep, dark thing inside of everyone that comes out and manifests itself into a person, where they just want to control and dominate, and they don't even care about what is happening around them. They feel a great sense of satisfaction abusing people, manipulating people, controlling people. Imagine if you had billions of dollars and you had nothing else to look forward to. Your life would just be boring. You can buy all the things you want. You can do all of the things you want. And this is why they say money is the root of all evil. But money is actually not the root of all evil. It's actually just that feeling where you just want more. It's this deep, dark hole where it never ends, and you just want more and more and more. And if you have all the money in the world, what is one thing you don't have? You don't have people. You don't have control. So you just want to structure your whole life into controlling and manipulating and even abusing. Find satisfaction in doing very vile things to people just because. There's a quote by Alan Watts which states, "It is the false self that causes us to suffer, because it is constantly trying to control and manipulate the world around us." What this means is those who seek to control and manipulate and abuse people are simply wearing a mask. They're operating from a different mindset. They're operating from one of domination, one of control, that animal nature, or the lower mind.